From Content 360, this is the state of client acquisition. Welcome to the state of client acquisition. This is your host, Michael Bohannes. This episode is a free consultation I gave to a gentleman called Jonathan, who's the owner of a consulting firm, helping small businesses grow their revenue. And Jonathan is doing very well in his business, but I noticed that he's not doing much content. And as we got talking, I offered him a free advisory session on what he could accomplish with his current time budget, what kind of content he could be publishing, and what kind of infrastructure he'd have to put in place. And Jonathan's business is a really interesting case study because many other small businesses are in this position. They've grown consistently over several years, growing on word of mouth and some good sales motions, but as most of these businesses do, neglecting the 95% of potential clients who are not ready to buy from them yet. And with that, if you only focus on those who are ready to convert, you're simply leaving a lot of money on the table, because as your competitors are getting better and more professional with content, they will be able to keep those potential clients hooked on their content and convert them when they are ready. And that goes to the heart of my framework, which I call the funnel and the pot. Jonathan's funnel is great. He's good at converting the 5% of his total addressable market who are problem aware and are ready to act, but he does not have anything for the remaining 95%, right? Those who don't have a need for his services right now. So establishing a rudimentary content ecosystem that can keep his audience warm until they're ready to buy, that would be key. And Jonathan wants to do that. At the same time, he also wants to keep a relatively low workload because he has 4 kids. So we mainly tried to work around that, right? How can he make something happen with just 4 to 5 hours a week? So if that's your case as well, if you have a limited time budget, but you do want to serve or start serving the 95% of potential clients who are not ready to act yet, who are not problem aware enough, or who simply need educating, you will love this episode. But beyond the straightforward lesson in this episode on how to organize yourself to get content going if you're short on time, there's also a really interesting meta lesson in all of that. Jonathan and I started talking when he pitched me on LinkedIn. I liked his approach and I had a short call with him, but on that short call, I realized that his services were not for me, but he still offered me to do a complimentary company audit and point out to me where I had blind spots about growing my business. So at that point, I realized that I really did not want to engage his services. Why? Because I have my growth agenda set for the next 2 quarters, and I simply don't want to get distracted. There's a million things I could be doing, and he offered me to do a couple of different ones, and I would say, okay, this is not high priority enough for me. But to be honest, I was still interested in what he had to say. At the same time, I didn't want to waste his time. So I told him upfront, listen, I won't become a customer, but how about we do this company audit since you're offering? Let's do it anyway, and you can record it and use it as content for yourself. It's a great way for a larger audience to see what it is like to work with you and effectively look over your shoulder as you work. And also, by kickstarting his content practice, Jonathan has the opportunity to stay in touch with me specifically, because who knows, maybe 6 months from now, I would be open to working with him after I'm done with my current strategic agenda. So we killed not 2, but actually 4 birds with 1 stone. First of all, we build a relationship and now can refer clients to each other because we're speaking to the same audience, small business owners, but they have different needs and we can serve those. Number 2, if Jonathan kickstarts his content practice, he can keep me warm and remind me of his existence for when I'm ready to act. Number 3, he added value to me while creating great content for himself. And finally, number 4, I added value to him while creating content for myself. So because both of us can take these hour-long recordings, publish them on our podcasts, chop them up into short clips for LinkedIn, Facebook, Bizfluence, and anywhere else. So the meta lesson of this episode is look at people who aren't perfect fit for you right now. For example, they are basically not funnel candidates, and figure out how you can build a relationship with them using your pot, i.e. your content ecosystem that adds value to them and keeps you on their radar. So after this slightly longer introduction than usually. Let's get right into this episode. Okay, so Jonathan, good to be talking to you about your business. I have a couple of questions I just wanted to take you through as well, not as structured as you did, but for me, the main purpose of this conversation is to help figure out where you guys could, I don't know if add 100,000 or more to your business, but definitely if you have a viable content practice, right, that is delivering great results for you, that can be, that can eclipse the sources of revenue that you have right now, right? So it's all about, if you build a content brand that scales, that can take care of all the client acquisition you'll ever need, right? So
love it.
We're going to be talking about what would be the pathway towards that. Okay.
Awesome. Cool. And if I'm looking down because I'm taking notes while you talk.
Cool. Awesome. So can you tell me, Armor Up Consulting, could you briefly give me the very high level history of this? What has it started as? How has it evolved over the years? And where are you at now?
Yeah, Armor Up Consulting started out as a coaching business in 2005, and it evolved into a full-scale consulting where we stopped just offering coaching, right? So coaching was the first thing, where we would hold salespeople, we would teach them how to consistently sell more and how to navigate relationships, create relationships, referrals, better sales, closing, all the things that a typical sales company, someone who trains people in sales would teach, right? So at 19 years old, I became a top sales rep in the very first business that I walked into due to it was kind of a fluke, right? They said, hey, we're giving away a $200 pair of Nike shoes. And at 19 years old, I was very good with money. I would have never paid $200 for a pair of shoes. I wanted those shoes because I do love shoes. So the contest was whoever gets the most referrals gets the pair of shoes. So in a 1 month contest, I went and got 584 referrals at 19 years old. And that also helped me to become the number one sales rep out of 17 gym locations. And I made over $6,800 just in commission my first month in sales. And so what I did was I said, wow, if I just do referrals all the time, I could get better. I could just be the top producer. And that was the truth. It didn't matter what industry I went in, what I did. I always focused on referrals, building relationships, creating partnerships, joint ventures. And that always helped me to be the number one person in sales.
Okay. So that's your special referral side of things.
That was my specialty is starting out in sales is how to navigate referrals. Referrals are much easier. You don't have to have the same sales tactics when you're working with referrals. You don't have to talk someone into it as much because it's a warm referral. And so once I navigated that, then I figured out how to navigate. I got into leadership and I was able to help a team where the 80-20 rule typically applies. Everybody knows the 80-20 rule. 80% of your team will do 20% of the revenue and vice versa. 20% of the 80% of the revenue will be handled by the top 20%. The first team that I started growing, everybody became top producers. It was even across the top. So everybody was getting top bonuses. Everybody was doing the top sales. Everybody got into that top tier. And there was really no major outliers. People were like 3 and 4 deals apart opposed to like 15 to 20. So then I got into leadership coaching and helping performance leaders teach their team how to do the same thing and everybody become a top producer. Then I got into management and became a COO. So then I became an executive coach. I did performance coaching. And then I trained under a couple of the top consulting firms in the world, very big companies. One of them is the second largest privately held company in the world. And I got my teeth grit on teaching companies how to actually intentionally grow month in and month out and create predictable growth and scale incrementally, right? So instead of, hey, how do I astronomically increase my leads? That's usually the first thing that people come to us for is they want to know, how do I get more leads? How do I make more sales? Well, then what happens once you get that? A lot of times businesses implode because they get too much business. The delivery goes down. Their team is burned out because they're overworked. So we help come in and set up those systems and processes across the 4 main pillars of business, which is money, people, marketing, and sales.
Operations?
Yeah. So operations falls under that. There's operations falls under a couple of those categories, right? HR systems,
money.
Your money. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. But just looking at your background here, because I see Armor Up Consulting started based on your CV here in January 2019. You said in 2005. So I saw your own career effectively started in 2005, right?
Yeah. So I essentially started this specific. I know a lot of people will put on their LinkedIn, oh, I've been doing this since 2005. I just put on LinkedIn when I started the LLC specific to this consulting firm.
Ah, got it, got it. But it has been running even while you were at Unity Recovery, at Southwestern Consulting, and all that.
Correct.
Still were running Armor Up effectively.
Correct. And it wasn't called Armor Up. I've changed the name multiple times of my coaching
got it.
business over time. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah. So, who's your typical client? What kind of client right now?
So I'll go with who I have right now in my book. So I have some people who are I have one person who I'm working with that was a sales rep when I started with him 2 years ago. He's going on his third year. I had stopped taking on sales reps, but he was a referral and he wanted to get into leadership. He's now the VP of sales at his company. So that was my path with him was, hey, if you're going to get in leadership, and then eventually we'll do a consulting with your company once you're in leadership. And so he moved into leadership. Eventually, probably over the next year to 2 years, we'll actually do consulting because we helped him. You know, this kid went from $60,000 a year to $250,000 years. And now he's in a leadership role, starting to work his way up. Everybody else in my business, in my book of business, they're all entrepreneurs. They run, some of them run brick and mortar businesses where they actually have physical locations. Most of them are service providers and work virtually.
Okay. Is it mostly solopreneurs or is it majority of bigger companies or like, let's say, SMEs?
So we certainly can work with solopreneurs, but I do not work with a solopreneur who doesn't want to scale. I don't bring them into consulting. We do have programs for a solopreneur who just wants to get better at their stuff. And we still offer coaching, but we're not specifically trying to find those individuals. We are trying to find businesses that want to grow their team and build and grow past themselves.
Okay. So the
businesses that want to scale in a way that if something happened to them, their business would continue to grow.
That's your okay. That's a very good, clear definition of client. Okay. And how then do you work? So when you get somebody like a company like that, when you get them on, how long do you work with them and how do you charge them? Is it a monthly retainer or how do you work?
Yeah, so great question. So we have fractional consulting groups, and the fractional consulting group, we provide them with a project manager, a project management system. We do a deep dive into their business and hit about 40 areas of their business. Their opportunity areas. They're all areas that we would need to focus on and figure out which ones they need help with. Then we would create their specific path, and then they would have full support of our 7 consultants and then me, which is 8. So we'd have 8 consultants that they could reach out to at any point in time that we would provide them with support in the group. Mm-hmm. And so their project timeline is created for them for 12 months at a time, but we actually only make them commit to the first 60 days. So we charge for the group, we charge $5,000 for the first 60 days. And then after that, it's $2,500 a month. So it's not we don't do anything, crazy where we offer discounts if they sign up right away. It's a simple fee structure. It's $5,000 for the first 60 days. And then it's $2,500 a month to month. The reason I did that, Michael, is that I had some people in my group that had astronomical results in their first 90 days and 60 days. And they said, hey, we can't keep coming back to the group because we got what we needed, but They would upgrade into like some sort of one-on-one or a more full scale consulting where our team steps in and actually does it for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so could you give me like an entire breakdown of the universe of products? So you say you have the coaching and then you have these fractional consulting groups. Could you give me like a product breakdown, like your revenue pie chart, and you break it down?
Yeah. Yeah. So the very basic and lowest level offering we have is someone could get our book, right? So I have a free ebook. We do have 2 books that are coming out soon, but right now we have a free ebook, which would lead them into then being a part of our e-learning, which is $200 per month. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of if we get on the phone with somebody that's a solopreneur and they don't really have the investment to get into the group and $200 a month, they're going to get a customized e-learning path
Yep.
It is customized to them. So it's not just, okay, go figure it out. No, we actually customize it to them. We teach them how to use it. And then they can also reach out to us for support. The next level up is we have a weekly group coaching for people that do not need full-on consulting or even that fractional consulting. They get access to the e-learning and one group call a week where they are implementing these systems sort of on their own, but with some questions being answered. So they would jump into the coaching the week that each week they would have a specific topic that's covered, and then they would reach out. So it's very basic group coaching. Then we have the consulting, right? So group consulting is where, go ahead.
What's the pricing at this level?
So the first one is 200 for the e-learning, and then it's 500, an additional 300 for that group coaching weekly.
Okay, and that's weekly. So but it's 500 a month. And how
Correct.
long do you usually stay in that?
So the recommendation is 12 months. The e-learning, we just launched the e-learning. So we literally just finished all of that about 90 days ago.
Got it. Okay, and then the next level then?
And the next level is the fractional consulting group, and the average time in that in our groups, if I average out some of the people who didn't need to stay past the first 6 months, is about 9 months.
Wow, that's good. So that means, and that is the 5K for 60 days and then 2.5K a month?
Correct.
Okay, that means that's 9 times 2.5, which is 18. That's about 20K in average customer lifetime value.
Correct.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. 20K CLV, good stuff. And then, and that's it? Or is there another high level?
So then we have one-on-one consulting where they do have access to the group, but most people, so far, 90% of the individuals who go with one-on-one, they just don't have time to show up to 3 group calls a month. So we offer them one-on-one. So we say, hey, we will work with you one-on-one. They have option of 2 and 4 times a month. And that's where they pay the $2,500 for the group. And then they pay either an additional $2,500 for 2 calls a month or $5,000 for 4 calls a month.
Okay. So 5K. Okay. 5K for 4 calls a month. Okay, good. And so is the bulk of your revenue coming from level 3, the fractional consulting group?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Cool. And then our very highest level is a proposal basis. Those are 6-figure contracts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we have a few people in full-on consulting right now. We can take on about around 10 a year right now, depending on how big their company is.
Okay, cool. And what's roughly your average monthly revenue these days?
Right now, we're doing about 65K.
65K a month.
In rolling revenue.
Okay, or rolling revenue. That's great.
So that's rolling. We of course we don't count. That's not accounting for the big contracts that pay up front and things like that.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So that's on top. Got it. Okay, cool. Very, very good. And now let's break down the lead sources. Where do your people come from? Is it all from the referrals that you're so good at, or where do they come from?
Yeah. So up until about March, it was referrals. And now we have obtained, since March, we have had a good split of referrals, LinkedIn, and then we hired appointment setters who utilize their LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and that has gone really well. And they're just doing organic outreach.
So was the conversation that you started with me, was it by a setter?
Correct.
Okay. Good stuff. And so that is could you give me like a rough breakdown of the referrals versus LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I would say, we're still at probably 60% referrals,
okay,
and 30% LinkedIn. And then the others are coming from cold calling and Facebook.
Also,
haven't got anything from Instagram yet.
Okay.
Yeah. We just started cold calling. But it's working well. Yeah. Started to work well.
That's pretty good. Excellent. So, and is there any pain point in the client acquisition area? Anything you'd like to improve upon?
So right now, if we had talked a month ago, we were still navigating all the appointment setters having conversations with right people, but we fixed that. So we're having right conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the the reason why I'm excited about talking today is the fact that we actually don't have a real solid, content game. We don't have a good solid content game. And last year I did, and then with COVID and everything happening, I lost some of my team due to that, and them just asking to go, I don't know, take a break. So that's probably the biggest thing, because we do have some clients that, if somebody wants to talk to one of my past clients, I've got a whole book of people who are willing to talk to prospects for us. It doesn't come up often, but it comes up. And then people want to see our website. Our website's great, but the content on my LinkedIn, I don't keep up with it. I don't keep up with content on LinkedIn. I don't keep up with Facebook at all. We have conversations, and then the way we sort of deliver our content is through those 15-minute discovery conversations.
I get it. Yes. But that's of course not scalable.
Correct.
Right? You have to do those. And that eats into your time. Okay.
Well, so we have five additional people who do those discovery calls, right? But to your point, it would be much better if we were spending our time just running the sales call, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And what is your personal weekly time split? Do you kind of approximate like how much time are you spending working with clients on clients' problems? How much are you spending in any form of sales process? Do you have a breakdown there?
I do. Yep. So I spend 10 hours a week on delivery right now. I allot 15 hours to delivery.
Yeah.
And I'm spending 15 to, depending on the week, because of our kids. So like 2 weeks out of the month, I'll spend 15 hours on discovery calls and sales calls. And then 2 times a month, I'll spend 20 hours doing discovery calls and sales calls. And then I spend the rest of the time working with, I spend an additional 5 to 7 hours, depending on the week, with my team, training them up, meeting with them.
Okay, good. So that's the bulk of it. 15 to 20 hours is discovery calls and sales calls, 15 to 20.
Correct.
Okay, so you need to, ideally you get yourself out of that.
Correct. We're almost there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's exactly right. The goal is to get me completely out. So I brought in a specific salesperson to take over my calls. Okay.
And with that freed up time, what do you plan to do? Was content your plan all along?
Content. Yeah. So two things. I only want to be working about 30 hours max a week, just with the amount of kids I have, 4 and under. I want to help support more, and maybe later on, but I have other businesses that I need to allot at least an hour a month to, in terms of treat them like a consulting client. So I have other businesses.
Oh, what's that? What kind of?
Yeah. So I have multiple other businesses. So I have a lifestyle clothing brand. I have a supplement business.
Oh, wow.
It's not white labeled. It's actually, And I have a commercial real estate business, a residential real estate business, a nonprofit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I've got one more that's been on hold that due to COVID, but we'll be ramping that one back up. It's a camping gear business.
Jesus. That should be good in COVID times. Survival gear.
Yes, they just, as long as you were on Amazon beforehand, it would have been really good. But yeah, we had some delays with some of those. So during this season, my whole aim was the consulting is what I'm called to do, right? Consulting, working with business owners. That's why I want to be in there helping with delivery. And I have other people that can do delivery as well. Once I replace myself with the sales and discovery calls, I still would like to have conversations with people, right? So I would like to continue to allow for 6 to 7 hours a week to meet with new business owners, because it's something I find joy in doing it. And then the rest of the time, that the other 7 to 8 hours that I can replace, I would actually like to spend just increasing my ability to deliver. So taking on 2 to 3 more one-on-one business owners where I work with them one-on-one, and maybe even run one more additional group. But right now I don't run any of the groups.
Oh, okay, interesting. So, but that is important. Now let me summarize that. So right now, 10 hours on delivery, 15, let's say for the sake of the argument, 15 on sales calls, discovery and sales, and let's say 5 to keep things clean, 5 with the team. So that's 30. You want to keep it at that level. However, the 10 hour, the like about, let's say, half of the discovery calls and sales calls would get shifted into delivery.
Correct.
The right side. So essentially you would end up with 15 hours on delivery. Still 6 to 7 hours meet with business owners effectively on sales calls. Is that right?
So yeah, it probably won't be sales calls, but like discovery calls. Like I would like to still meet with new business owners that what will probably happen is I want to take on the proposal based clients. So anytime someone has a large enough business where they really need a proposal, that's who I want to talk to.
Yeah. Okay. Meet with discovery. So 6 to 7. So the new world will be 15 hours on delivery, and you will have to, of course, keep doing the 5 to 7 hours with the team.
Correct.
Right.
So for probably the next 6 months, but I have 2 people that we've brought on that I'm training to actually take on even that. So I'll still have to meet with them, but I won't have to meet with the entire team.
Okay.
So I am training some leaders to actually take on the consultants so that they can keep up with meeting with the consultants one-on-one.
So the 5 to 7 hours you have now with the team could be reduced to 2 hours, you said?
Correct.
Okay, so the new world is 15 hours delivery, 6 to 7 hours meet with business owners, discovery calls and all of that, proposal clients, and 2 hours working with the team.
Correct.
Which means we are on, let's say 15 plus 7 is 22, 24 hours. So you have now, with this, you have reduced your hours from 30 down to 24, which frees up 6 hours a week.
Which is perfect.
Okay, and these 6 hours, you say you could you use them? Did you say you want to work help more with the kids, right?
Yeah, so I can maintain the 30 hours.
Okay.
So if I maintain 30 hours, I'm good. But there's 2 things that I need to do more of that I'm having to do after hours. I'm working on my business, so making sure that we're scaling properly, that systems are clear, that they can maintain the growth, and then actually to doing content. So I need to spend more time actually doing content.
Okay, so you would want. Does that mean you would have 6 hours to do content, or into these new 6 hours you also have to fit working on the business?
Yeah, so I could probably take 4 of those hours and do content and 2 hours working on the business.
Okay, good, got it. So that is quite the bare minimum to do content, I have to say, but it's not impossible. I think what then I would start doing, and you'll see the results, you'll see how you like it and if that kind of resonates with you, because you already have a great audience on LinkedIn. I mean, you have 21,500 followers. I presume that's something Facebook, you're also active, right? So you have there. That means there's a quite nice pool to fish in, and not necessarily fish in. My whole philosophy is that your clients are at varying different stages of course, willingness to take action, right? It's kind of, I don't have to tell you, people are, of course, from not even problem aware to the whole spectrum until I need to act ASAP, right? So that whole spectrum. And the thing is, only about 5%, maximum 5%, are even remotely close to being willing to go on a call and just consider even working with you. Those 5 people, I think you have a really good handle on how you deal with them. You do discovery calls, you do sales calls, you enroll them if you feel that they're a fit. However, what right now, you don't have a content ecosystem for people. When they come, the other 95%, there is nothing for you to hold them in a lobby, so to speak, and keep them warm for the time until they are ready. And that is the thing that I would dedicate time to developing them, to developing that kind of content ecosystem, so you can keep a semblance of a kind of waiting room for them where they are somewhat, engaged and entertained. Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's kind of the separation, and I call it the funnel and the pot, because usually people talk about splitting the funnel. You need to split your funnel between the people who are about to convert, and then the other side of the funnel for people who just want to be informed and entertained with content. However, that's not really a funnel, and that's why I call it funnel and the pot, because in the pot, you just put them in there, and there they are slowly stewing along until perfection, right? And the philosophy that you have to apply there in the pot is that you just don't sell. This is not a place to sell. You purely add but genuine value. That's quite a for somebody who's very like sales oriented, especially like yourself, and if you are sort of because you're a great salesman, you're probably relatively transactionally minded, right? Which is not a bad thing, right? But at least we have been conditioned in this way. I also come from a sales background. I've been working in a sales role in Google and so on. So it's very much second nature to me. And that I did have to learn this, that the content that you actually provide needs to be done in a 100% helpful way with no background thinking, oh, I want to convert these people. Of course we do. And we have to kind of be a little bit schizophrenic about this, because ultimately the only reason why we're doing it is so that we keep this ecosystem alive for people who are our ideal target audience. But we have to be willing to accept that even if none of them ever convert, it's still a good thing to do. Because if you successfully are able to convince yourself of that, then they will convert at one point, right? You will have the right people. Why? Because you're serving them with the right kind of content, and people over time develop brand affinity and trust with you. And that, just to give you an idea, I keep getting people who, for example, they've been for a year on my email list, and suddenly they, after one email that I send, they say, hey, listen, let's talk. I need help with this. And that is only possible because they came on my email list at a time when they were not even considering working actively on the client acquisition. Things were going well, for example, but then over time, things got a little bit difficult. And in the new world, they need some help with it. And they know what I do because I sort of occupy a small piece of their mental real estate. They know that when it comes to client acquisition, and especially anything focused on LinkedIn, I'm the guy. But I don't reinforce that by telling them, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the guy. That will be a boring message to send. No, I send them great, valuable tips on how to improve your visibility on LinkedIn and how to do sales calls, how to do content and so on. So they know that if they need me, if they need help in this area, I'm the guy to go to, right? And so that is the goal. And with, if you say 4 hours, specifically what I would suggest that you do, because that is really, we have to be very focused on what we do here. I think you doing those kind of calls, like you did with me, recording them, having someone to chop them up into clips that you then publish on LinkedIn. You should probably have somebody in your team who would spend 5 to 10 hours a week managing that entire process, so that the only thing you have to do is to find good people who you would have these kind of calls with, who have a really interesting value proposition, but who don't, for whichever reason, don't want to work with you now yet, or you would just offer it to them for free in exchange for the ability to publish it on your podcast. And yeah, giving this kind of real value to them where they find, I got a lot of value out of our conversation, right? And so that kind of stuff really adds value to me. I have a high opinion of you. And with that, that creates exactly the right atmosphere. So that would be one thing. I think if you simply do just one of these a week, that's 1 hour of your time, and you probably will have an hour in addition that you have to kind of talk to them a little bit, you know, and do a little bit of little bit of post and so on. So that's 2 hours gone out of your budget. And then the second thing I would do is probably one more content post a week, like a quality content post. It's going to take you another hour, and one email. And I want you to use different media here. So that would be video that you then distribute on a podcast, right? Because that recorded 1 hour session can go on a podcast. It will also be on your YouTube channel that you manage. The clips of it would go on LinkedIn with subtitles and the kind of red graphics on it and so on, short clips that then you link to the full episode, right? So you just show a clip and then you link to the whole episode. And the email is also, people need to have this kind of feeling of inevitability that you are owning different media assets. There's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, there's a podcast, and then there's email. And that you kind of hit them from different sides. So it's like a multi-sensory experience. They go on LinkedIn, they see your video. And then they get an email from you where you say, oh, by the way, check out our podcast episode. They say, wow, this guy's all over the place, as in like in a good way. This guy's everywhere. And if you manage that well, you could get by with those 4 hours where you invest 2 hours into identifying the right people and running these calls with them. That's 2 hours, 1 hour on email to do, but a really high quality email where you really add value to people, anything that you've learned. And the thing is, you have so many client experiences already. You've had tons of clients, and the best fodder for content is actual real client problems. Like, what are they struggling with? Just to give you an idea, today's post that I posted was about how everybody tells you have to be vulnerable on LinkedIn, you have to show your personal side and all of that. And frankly, I'm quite sick of it. I do like the idea, of course, you have to be personable as a person, but all these harrowing stories of how you were abused and how you were oppressed and how you suffered and now you're the phoenix out of the ashes and so on, that kind of stuff, it really bothers me. I don't like it. And I don't even think that, sure, it gets great views. And if you talk about your depression and anxiety, it's going to get a ton of views. And this will result, ultimately, you will get a couple of clients out of this because you get wide reach. I don't know if you're familiar with Shay Rowbottom on LinkedIn. Do you know her?
I do.
Yeah. So Shay Rowbottom she's the master of this, right? She exploded the time when she started talking about her depression and how she was abused as a kid. And I don't knock it at all. It's like, it's perfectly fine. If you really have such a story, then it's okay. And it's okay to be, authentic and vulnerable and so on. What I find is where I am against it is if people who have not had these kind of traumatic experiences try to conjure up something, right? And I was exactly in the same spot. I didn't have really harrowing experiences in my life, right? I was not, thank God, I was not abused in any way. I had a nice corporate career. I did an MBA. And then sure, I ran a business that didn't work out. So that was, unpleasant. And I was really low on cash and so on. Yeah, but that kind of stuff happens. I would not consider this to be like a traumatic story worth sharing and going all vulnerable on, right? And I feel that what we are being fed on LinkedIn is, and I had this experience also with my clients who says, I don't really have such a sob story to share. Okay, so let's just give you a background. This is what people are resonating with. There's a slice of the LinkedIn population who doesn't like all this vulnerability stuff. And I wrote that post for them. This is why it resonates, because it's a real issue of real people. They don't want to go with their sob stories. And I provide them an avenue I just write about that. That resonates. And because I offer people help, how you can do that, how you can create content like this, I talk exactly to my target audience. And they also know, okay, he's the guy to go to if I want help with that kind of stuff. Okay, so that kind of content would be the other 2 hours. You just put out relevant written content on LinkedIn that resonates with your target audience because it is based on real client problems. That's one additional LinkedIn post. So overall, you could put out, let's say, 3 posts a week, 2 videos that you will get clips done by other people. You don't have to do that yourself. So 2 videos with a little bit of text. You would have to write the text as well for that. So that's a little bit of time that you would have to invest. So we'd see maybe we cannot really fit in 3 posts because the text needs to be written by you, following the best practices of, how to write a LinkedIn post, good, cliffhanger like intro so that people click on the see more button and then they read. It's well structured. There's maybe a couple of bullet points and so on. So that does take a little bit of time. I would say then let's do 2 posts only. One where it's above the video and another one that is just pure text. And then maybe you can repurpose one of these posts into an email. We'd have to see how that goes and how you manage your time. Initially, you'll have to probably start with maybe just 1 post a week and 1 email so that we fit into the 4 hours because you will have a learning curve. So that's the kind of, when we have a time budget of 4 hours, I think that would have the best bang for the buck, right? So given that you would not be doing most of the work yourself, but you would get other people to do the editing for you, to do the video chopping up into clips and so on. And frankly, you wouldn't, I think, and I'm kind of thinking as we go, because I rarely work with people who only have 4 hours a week for this. But what we could do is that you only run these calls once every 2 weeks, which gives you maybe 5 clips per session, which then you could use for 2 weeks, right? So you could then use the clips for, let's say, a total of 4 posts. Something like that. We would figure it out, right? That is something to figure out. But all those processes, like, okay, so you record it, then you upload the video into a Google Drive folder. You have a virtual assistant sitting somewhere in the Philippines who does the chopping up. You instruct them on what they should be looking for, and then they chop it up. You'd have to test if the person does it well. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve there for you. You see the first person is not good, you need to get another one. So it's going to be a little bit of, starting up friction of this. But once you have it, it's awesome. Like I do this. I have a lady, she is actually doing the timestamp identification. So she looks into the video and finds the good clips to cut out, gives detailed instructions to my video guy, who then cuts the clips and uploads them in a specific Google Drive folder. All I have to do is just download the clips, put them into LinkedIn, write my little spiel, boom, done. And that is something that you could implement so that you only spend 4 hours. That is the thing I would do if I was you. And because the issue is, some companies, and you might also be tempted to work with somebody who does your content for you, it never works. Whenever you try to outsource your content, it never works. It's not really your voice. And it really needs to be your voice. This is a C-level activity, because you have this detailed understanding of your target clients that maybe your other consultants can feed that to you, what they are hearing from their clients, from the clients that you kind of ask them to work with. But ultimately, the choice of topics and how you phrase it, that's your job.
Yeah, I love it. I definitely know this is doable, and I'll have, I think it's going to vary 4 to probably 6 to 8 hours, because I'm not going to always have those 6 hours of proposal time that I'm going to need every week. We can only take on 10 clients. So at this point we can take on anywhere from 6 to 7 more. So I'm not going to be doing proposal meetings a bunch, but I did this last year, and the way I did it was very similar. So I think if it's okay, I'll share with you what I did, and the system I had set up until COVID sort of made some changes, and then we had a child, so I didn't try to recreate it yet. I would record me doing a podcast. So I had the YouTube video, I had the podcast, and then I would share that video with a content person so they could transcribe it and then help me create posts out of what I said. So it was my words, but they would pull the words out and then create little picture posts for Facebook and Instagram. Okay. Then I would have the video editor chop it up into little pieces and add the words in it, like you said, and then cut it into smaller pieces, have the longer one for YouTube. And then I had the podcasts that I would deliver it into the podcast form.
So you did that already. That's gross. They're great.
So the system worked really well. It's just, to your point, I still have my gal that can chop up the videos. So I think that'll be an easy pass through, because she's really great at it. And I had her doing it, and also hired to outsource it to a company that was helping, because I was doing a lot last year. So now I think that just with what you're saying, I mean, just this path doesn't seem overwhelming. And that's my biggest challenge with content, to be transparent, is I get overwhelmed with I'm very self-critical. So I end up being too self-critical. And what I realized was that it was actually selfish, that I was just selfish, because I was more concerned about what other people thought of me than actually getting out the relevant content. Yeah,
exactly. No, and the great thing about it is, once you hit like a topic that really resonates with your target audience, you get fans, and it's not like huge, suddenly people are like, praying at your altar, right? It's not like that, but it's just, you create a good positive vibe, in a content ecosystem. And that means so many good potential things can happen to you. Also, today I spoke to somebody who got referred to me by someone, he even didn't remember who it was, but this guy just kept apparently seeing my posts on LinkedIn. And he then mentioned me to this guy. I have no idea who that is, right? So it just creates generally a positive vibe in your ecosystem that really supports you. And especially because you already have a network of like 21,000 people, plus you've been in this domain for a long time, plus you're an expert in referral selling, that's just going to lift that up as well. So not just the people who are actively in the market, but even people who are not in the market at all, but because you're such an expert in referral selling, they are in this ecosystem, they will see you, wow, that was a great clip, Jonathan. Oh, by the way, I know this guy who might need your help, boom, intro. So just keeping that up. I know that, you know, family interferes and you have 17 other businesses to take care of. But if you could just maintain that, like at least that one post a week, if you could just keep that up as a regular stream, and you also importantly, I think that would help you as well a lot, is if you allocated a little bit of time, half an hour a week, into commenting on other people's content, but on brand comments, not just, hey, great job, or something like that, but where you actively inject yourself into a conversation that's going on, sharing a specific piece of advice on somebody's challenges. Be in groups where your target audience hang out and answer the one or two questions that people ask there. That is also, I consider that, of course, to be content, just in a different medium. And also gets very positive vibes associated with your persona, therefore with your brand, therefore with your company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can to set that up, the way I do this, I have these kind of time block planner sheets where you just slot it in every day, where you just say, okay, today I'm just going to do it at 9 a.m. Ideally, you would have even like a fixed hour where you say, fine, okay, let's do Monday to Thursday, 1 hour in the morning. Just work on that, create some content, and then hand it over to a junior person who will do the right things with it. You know, log into LinkedIn, do that. When people then comment on it, engage back with them, that all can be done by somebody else.
Love that. Yeah, and that's how I have an executive assistant that helps me block my timeout. So I send it to them, and I say I need to add these a regular block into my week. This many hours, this much time. It needs to be content, and then these are the things that I need to do. So can you help me figure out the time? And they do it for me, which has been super helpful, because sometimes I end up thinking too much through, well, when can I do this? When can I do that? So I color code, I block my time, works really well. And just to your point, I get a lot done when I block it out. When I know when I'm doing it, I will get a lot done. I get a lot done in those focused times. I turn everything off, you know, and pay attention just to that. So
cool.
Great advice.
That's the way to go. And that's going to compound over time, right? Because it's such great client insight that you get. I mean, you know a lot about your clients already, but it's just another reason to think about your client problems in a different way. Because anytime I now have calls with clients, I always think, okay, what of this can I use for content? Because those are real problems that they tell me. And the best ones of it become really good content. And the virtuous circle starts from that moment.
Love that.
More good content means more clients come to me. More clients mean more fodder for content, and so on. That's the virtuous circle. And one thing that I see increasingly being more and more relevant is stay on brand on LinkedIn, which means it's okay to put supportive comments and so on. I would say never get caught posting anything that is off brand. Like actually, I broke this today where I commented on a guy's post about Shopify versus Amazon. That's not my domain. I shouldn't have commented on that. I just thought new contact, leave a comment, you know, just to build a relationship wasn't a good idea. Shopify, this whole e-commerce space is not my space, not at all. Shouldn't have commented. So, and staying on brand also means, yeah, I saw, for example, just wonder your current most recent content. Let me quickly look that up. I wonder if it was yours. There's no failure, you either win or learn. Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. No, sorry. I thought I saw something, but no, it's fine. But staying on brand is a big deal.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. And I sometimes, when I do jump in there and I comment a little, I can definitely find myself, when you said that, I thought back to, yeah, I've definitely commented off brand before. And even if I do know it, because I have a supplement business, and I don't want my LinkedIn to be aware of all my various businesses. Right. I didn't even mention 3 of them. I don't need everybody to know. I just want just the consulting to be people aware of consulting on LinkedIn. Exactly.
It's better not to dilute the message in this way. That's great. It's a good idea.
Yeah, this has been super helpful. So I would love to know. So what does it look like can I ask this question? What does it look like when someone works with you? What do you do for companies to help them through this process?
Well, as you know, as we discussed last time, it's a coaching program. And so I have first of all, I have the whole content portal where I explain you the methodology, like end to end, and where I can help you set up these systems. But it sounds like you already had them set up in many ways. I could look over some of them and just give you a couple of pointers if you feel that there's a gap anywhere. But it seems that you're good at putting that system together yourself. I think the main area where I add value to people is to kind of help to translate their experience with clients into really good content that will actually resonate. So now the really interesting thing is, I think I am one of the people with the best ratio of likes into clients, right? I don't have a huge amount of engagement, but over, I think this year alone, I like 60 grand of business came in via my content alone. And so that I know that some of my competitors, for example, they have way better engagement, but because they do this kind of feel good content, and very often the kind of the vulnerability kind of stuff, that gives them a lot of likes. But sometimes I've heard through the grapevine, they're not doing financially as well because they get the dopamine addiction, right? They keep posting that kind of irrelevant content that gets them the likes, but not the clients. I once got a client off of a piece of content that got 3 likes. One of them was me, right? So that content gave me, actually, I can allocate that. I have this one client has come in because of that one piece of content, which was very unpopular. So that's what I'm good at. I can help you kind of create a content calendar where you say, okay, this will be a good piece of content because it really resonates with your target audience. And so you ask specifically what a collaboration looks like. Is number one, you get enrolled into the program, which means you are in you have the content portal access, where I point you to specific things to look into, where I see that there's a gap in your knowledge. You don't have to watch the whole thing. And then we get into regular calls where you present me with the plan and I hold you accountable to the plan. And we can discuss content ideas, and I give you feedback on that, even like how to write well for LinkedIn. Because, for example, I'm looking at the Nelson Mandela post that you put. You, for example, that's like a giant block of text, right? That's rather suboptimal. You know, people don't like to read these big blocks of text. And so there will be some like corrections of these kind of obvious things. But that would be an ongoing support. Yeah. But frankly, I just honestly, I don't think that, because for you, it would not be about outbound, because you're already doing outbound, you have setters organized, and that is usually a big level of value that I give to people, that they also get better with outbound. You're good on sales calls. You don't need my help on sales calls. I don't think you would need to enroll in my entire program. I think just
and I think just having like I like the, you know, and from our call last time, it just, you know, it's a good this to me is the most important arm, and it's just the arm of marketing. And I just call it it's the inbound, where I also, if there was a bigger category of this side, it would be, you have referrals, right? Referrals and organic conversations. And then this content piece would be like sort of that third pillar of just that inbound organic type of leads coming in. And it's definitely, it's something we teach. It's something we teach to our clients, but oftentimes they don't really get that far along because it's not the first go-to due to it being more of a long-term play. People come in and they sort of have this, the urgency, right? The tyranny of the urgent, right? Is what ends up taking over. So they need leads right now. And then at some point in time, 6, 7, 8 months, then it's, hey, you should have a content mapping and flow. And a couple of years ago, I paid to have some content calendars built out to give ideas to clients, but it really doesn't fit to your point. It needs to be their language. And I have somebody write what you read on LinkedIn about Nelson Mandela. Somebody else did that. Right. And just because during this season, I didn't have the time to allot to content. So this has been super helpful for me, just for me to go and say, all right, I just need to, this is something that's a money-making activity for me as the owner. To your point, it's a C-level activity. I need to do this in order to solidify this sort of organic inbound flow.
Yes. And it's the great value in it is that you actually really learn about your target audience. You know your audience very well, but this is like an additional layer that you get because you also know how to formulate something so that it resonates with the ideal people. It's really fun once you get into it, you kind of see what kind of language will resonate with people. And also it's like you learn a new dimension. It's like when you learn a new language, right? It's actually you experience the world in yet another interesting facet. Namely, that is by taking a client problem and formulating it into a post that is then going to be seen by thousands of people. And you formulate it in a way so that even more people see it if you formulate it well, right? The same kind of content written poorly and written really extremely well can have like orders of magnitude difference in reach. And learning that distinction is a fascinating process in itself, and it's going to make you a better business person. That's why I love content in this context. I
love that. Well, this has been super, super helpful and valuable. I mean, I took, I don't know, 4 pages of notes, 6 pages of notes here. And I super appreciate this. This was, like I said, super valuable, very, very, very worth my time. And I'm excited to see how things transpire on your end. And and I got a kid yelling at me through the door.
Good knowledge.
So I appreciate the time, and thanks so much for spending this time with me.
The State of Client Acquisition is a Content 360 production. Music by Gavin Knox-Grand. To sign up for alerts and to submit written and audio questions, go to stateofclientacquisition.com. I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Montreal girls in the tail end of winter. Caffeine burns, wide awake dreams in color. Blood on my hands in this open heart journey. And infinite numbers, rapid fire across the country. We slide.